It was back during the peak winter days of December. The second wave of the deadly pandemic was on the rise and lockdown was announced straight away. I had no other option other than to stay at home. I used to stay up all night binge-watching movies on Netflix. This one particular night, something weird had happened that I won't ever forget. I was sitting in the common room with a cozy blanket on top of me with my laptop on my lap and my headphones on my ears. It was just past 3 a.m. when I heard a loud bang. I was startled. I got up to see what happened. Due to my habit of always sitting in the dark, the lights were obviously turned off at that time, so I turned on the lights. In the distance, I could see the back door, which connects the kitchen with the backyard, wide open. My first thought of this was that maybe the wind had caused it to slam open. So I looked outside, but everything was at a standstill. There was no wind at all. This had me creeped out for a little bit, but I didn't pay much heed to it. I closed the door back again and went back to watching my movie. A few minutes later, I heard the bang again. This time I got scared. I immediately got up and turned on the lights and grabbed my baseball bat and then said, "Who's there?" No one replied. I slowly started walking towards the kitchen. The door was once again wide open. I went out to the backyard and saw 3 pure black cats sitting there, staring and hissing right at me. I was really scared because I hadn't seen a black cat in the area before, let alone 3 identical ones at the same time. Nevertheless, I locked the door and came back inside. Still confused and scared, I went back to the common room. But when I opened back my laptop, what I saw next shook me to my core. The infamous movie, The Nightmare on Elm Street, was playing instead of the movie I was watching before. Due to my childhood fear of Freddy Krueger, seeing this had sent chills down my spine. The movie was almost at its climax and I was really scared. I immediately shut down the laptop screen. And suddenly, the light started fluctuating and it got pretty intense. I was sure that a paranormal presence was there. The flickering of light stopped after a few seconds. I sat there with my eyes closed, numb and frightened. Suddenly the house phone rang. I gathered some courage to have a look at the phone. With a broken voice, I answered it. At first, I could only hear heavy breathing. But then, an inhumane voice shouted, "Get out of my house!" I screamed and ran outside my home and immediately called 911. The cops arrived within 5 minutes and searched my house. They didn't find anyone inside. Ever since this incident, I've never been able to stay up late again. Well, at least not alone. This happened a couple of months ago when we recently moved into this new house in a very uninhabited area. There were only 2 or 3 other houses on the street and it used to get creepy at night. Rumors had it that the reason why people don't want to live in this neighborhood is because no one could live here for more than 6 months. Every time someone moved in, they'd have some really bizarre experiences which would eventually cause them to move out. My father's military detachment was for this sector, and there was no other option for us other than this house. Unfortunately, a few weeks after moving in, my parents got diagnosed with COVID-19 and the whole family was in quarantine. We all had to practice social distancing from one another and couldn't leave the house either. I was staying over in the basement temporarily. I couldn't leave the house or the basement, so the only way to kill time was by watching television or using my phone. Days passed by and my boredom level kept on rising. Until one day I texted my friend and asked him to suggest some good movies. He told me about this one Turkish horror movie, Dabe. He urged me to watch that movie. I checked out the reviews online and it had a pretty good rating. Therefore, one fateful night, I decided to watch this movie. And there I was, sitting alone in the basement with the lights switched off. The movie started with the opening credits and looked pretty interesting. 2 minutes into the movie, I heard a loud knock on the door that connects the basement with the stairs. I was a bit confused because it was past 1 a.m. and everyone was supposed to be sleeping. And to top it off, all of us were in quarantine separately and couldn't see or meet each other. Nevertheless, I decided to go and answer the door. I got up and turned on the lights. I advanced towards the door and tried opening it. At first, it didn't quite open, as if someone was leaning on it. Alas, it opened. What I saw had me shocked. There was no one there. I left it open and went back to the couch. I comforted myself by thinking that it was all in my head. I restarted the movie, but this time with the lights switched on. Time passed by and the movie was close to its interval when I heard a loud bang from the back. The door had shut this time. I was scared to death. I immediately turned off the television and went to bed and tried to sleep. A few seconds later, I heard some strange music playing. I was shell-shocked, but somehow gathered some confidence to look outside the blanket. The old musical box lying on the shelf was playing all by itself. Suddenly, the knocking on the door continued, and it got more intense with every bang. That's when I really freaked out, screamed, and ran straight outside to the road. It was quite foggy that night, and I couldn't see much of what's around. I started calling my brother over and over again until he picked up. I told him about what had happened, so he came outside to take me back in with him. By this time, my whole family was up. They searched the whole house and couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. The basement door was also locked, as it should have been. This experience has led me to never watch a horror movie alone again.